Well, we're going to look at the bottom half of the Darts Masters, which starts on January the 29th, live on ITV4. We've already previewed the 12 players in the top half of the draw, and like I say, now we're on the bottom half of the draw. We've got Matt Pieman Hill here. We've also got special guest Ozzy Smith. And the first game to look at in this bottom half of the draw is Jose de Souza against Jonny Clayton. Jose finds himself as an 8-15 favourite for this match. Clayton at 13-8. Myself and Pieman were strong on Jose for the World Championships. I think more so me. I put my money on and I lost my money. He got battered by Mervyn King, which was a surprise to me at the time. So, yeah, Jose didn't really turn up to me. And I was high on him, say, a month ago. If you just asked me about Jose de Souza, I was really high on him. Now, I've got a lot of question marks over him. He is a major winner in the Grand Slam, but has he really done it against the big boys on TV? And the answer to that at the moment is no. But if he beats Jonny Clayton in round one, we will soon find out because one of the big boys away. I won't reveal that just yet, but straight away we'll go over to Ozzy Smith and see what he thinks about this game as an individual. Jose against Jonny.
Probably toughest game of the first round to pick. I think it's very difficult. Jonny Clayton did well at the Worlds, thought he threw well, and again Jose de Souza. He started poorly against Merv King, which but I don't think anybody would have beaten Merv on that performance. I think Merv was unbelievable. I forget what he was averaging, but I'm sure it was over 110 in the first couple of sets. It was outstanding. And I wouldn't deter de Souza because he came into that off the back of a fantastic major win. And you don't win majors by accident. He's always going to have a flaw with his miscounting, but I don't think that will impact him in this. And I think maybe just a short, snappy format could suit him against Clayton. But I wouldn't be, it sounds stupid, but I wouldn't be shocked if Clayton won. I think this is a pick-em one. And I think it depends what Jonny Clayton turns up of how difficult a game it will be. I wouldn't be gambling on it personally, but just from who do I think will win, I will side with de Souza because you don't become a bad player overnight. And a loss against Mervyn King, there was no disgrace in that because I think he ended up with a pretty impressive average. It was just his finishing that let him down.
Yeah, I've got a similar opinion on this, Jose, about a 1-2 chance. I think it's about right, but it wouldn't be one for me to get involved with. I really like both of these players. Just what you touched on there, Adam, with Jose de Souza, I take a little bit of a pinch of salt on both counts. Like when he won the Grand Slam of Darts, did that immediately make him the world's best player? No. But does losing to Mervyn King in the Worlds make him a question mark, a bad player? No. I just think Jose is what you see is what you get. He's had a sensational rise to darts, notably for how quick it has been. But if you're judging him just on the bare quality of his performances, he's a 180 merchant. He can outscore anyone in the game. His finishing is pretty good, but he does have the obvious flaw of his counting, as Ozzy pointed out. So you know what you're going to get with Jose. And I do think he has questions to answer when the crowds come back in and he's expected to bring these big performances week in, week out with crowds. But he's been playing in events without crowds for months now on the floor and at the Grand Slam, at the Worlds, whatever. And there's no signal that he won't handle it. So I think he's a worthy favourite. Jonny Clayton, a player that I really like, and obviously still working as a plasterer for his local council alongside his darts. But he's got to be the best player, Jonny Clayton, to still be working full-time on the side. I mean, he could easily make it as a full-time player. UK Open semi-finalist last year and European Championship. So he can do it with the best. He beat MVG in the first round of this last year, 10-6, probably his career best result, to be honest. So he's got good memories here. Then lost 10-8 to Aspinall in the next round, and that was the one that could have gone either way. So he likes it here, Jonny Clayton. I think he can raise his game to play against the better players. But I think Jose, if Jose plays like he has done most of the time in the last 12 months, is a worthy favourite, but not one to get too strong on, I don't think.
I think Jose's probably maybe a little bit too short at 8-15, and it's like it's the oldest overnight sensation in darts ever. Really, he's 40 odd years old. He's been in and around the circuit for years. He appeared at the World Championships as many as like 7 or 8 years ago. Then he's had a barren spell, and then like you said, Pieman, last year he just absolutely took off. mainly during the COVID period, which obviously wasn't by choice for him. But like I say, he's not really. He's definitely not experienced this tournament before, and when fans come back, how will it affect him? Set play, I did flag up as a question mark.
Well, he's in the Premier League as well. Let's not forget this year.
Yeah, which I think is too early for him, but we've covered that on another video. But yeah, the winner of that game between Jose and Clayton waits Van Gerwen. Bit of history with both, really. Jose beat Van Gerwen in the Tour final last year, and Clayton beat Van Gerwen in this competition last year, as Pieman's flagged up. Van Gerwen, I couldn't take many negatives out of the Worlds, to be honest. I know he got beat, I think it was 5-0 by Chizzy, one of the best performances ever. But, I mean, it's difficult to say you didn't do a lot wrong and lose 5-0. But, I thought he was playing pretty well. And I thought Van Gerwen, up until that point, against lesser opposition who didn't really push him other than Cullen, was looking somewhere back to his best, using his old equipment. I'm guessing that will continue into this tournament until things start opening up after COVID in terms of his dart supplier, but that's another story. I see no problem with Van Gerwen's form, and I think that if he's in that same form, he should be beating Jose or Clayton in the second round. But I do like Clayton, but I'd prefer to see MVG versus De Souza, just so I can get a bit more of a handle on De Souza's mindset against these big boys on TV, because I don't think we've quite seen it yet, and we've flagged that before. So interesting section of the draw, I think. Like I say, I think Jose's 8-15 is probably too short, but is the most likely winner. If that contradicts itself slightly, then so be it. The second game in this mini quarter is Dimitri Vandenberg against Chris Dobey. I think Ozzy's already indicated who he thinks the winner of this tournament will be on our top half preview. Pieman and myself indicated who we think the winner will be in our early look preview, and all roads point to Dimitri Vandenberg. So that cannot end well for anyone that's backing Vandenberg, with us three idiots picking him to win. Vandenberg takes on Chris Dobey. Vandenberg's 2-5, so he is one of the shortest price of any first round game against Dobey, who's the 23 seed. I didn't think Dobey was in good form going into the Worlds. He won one game at the Worlds, then lost a good game against Gurney. But I think Dimitri should be coming through this, to be honest with you. What did you think of this one, Oz?
Agree. Probably one of for me, I'll probably end up with egg on my face now, but one of the easier games to predict. Vandenberg flying. Again, we talked earlier about the form of the life, and again, you can argue Dimitri is in that, and he's only getting better. Still not a fan of this knee brace that he persists to wear on stage, but I don't think that's going anywhere. But I just think he'll be just too good for Chris Dobey, far too good. Dobey was okay in the Worlds. From memory, I think Gurney allowed Dobey back into the game rather than Dobey throwing extremely well. But for Vandenberg, I forget who did he get beat off in the Worlds? Vandenberg.
Chizzy.
No,
yeah. Well, it says it all about Chizzy. He was again outstanding in that. And if you look at Vandenberg's stats, he didn't really do a lot wrong. He was he came up against a better player, which that's darts, that can happen. So again, certainly a favourable draw for Vandenberg, a disastrous one for Dobey, and I think I wouldn't be shocked at a 6-0 here, 6-0, 6-1. I think it will be pretty straightforward for Vandenberg.
Well, I don't think I need to say too much more about Dimitri Vandenberg. I've said my piece a number of times. I've been saying he's a world champion in waiting probably since he came onto the main circuit. I just think he's insanely talented. The way he throws, there's very little room for error. He's very straight arm, very reliable thrower. He's one of these scorers that when he puts 3 in the treble 20, they can all be in the same corner. You know what I mean? That he groups so well. He could fit another 10 darts in there sometimes. And look, if you're going purely on statistics, he just keeps posting 100+ averages. It's just like if anyone didn't know these darts players, didn't know what they'd won, and you handed them a piece of paper with everyone's recent form and statistics on, you'd say this guy must be a great chance. And you say, oh, he's 16-1. They wouldn't believe you. So I think for that reason, he has to be the best selection purely on his value. But we know 1st to 6 is dangerous. I totally hear what you're saying, Oz, with the 6-0, and I think that's a massive price, as Adam will probably confirm in a minute. But Just a word on Chris Dobey, because he has got a lot of talent and he is someone that I like. And he had this sort of drab period where he went off the radar, and it's almost surprising that he's still in the top 24 to get into this tournament, to be honest, given his form. But I thought he had to play really well to come back from the brink against Jeff Smith. He was 2-0 down in sets, and he did show a bit of the flashes. And he said in his old interview, it's been a struggle for me for a long time. I just haven't felt like myself, but it's starting to click a little bit. He ran into an informed Daryl Gurney in the next round, so we didn't see too much more of him. But he's just a hard one to gauge, Chris Dobey. If he is getting back to his best, he's an interesting runner. But yeah, he's up against the worst possible person for me, and I think Dimitri probably gets this done. Chris Dobey, someone I'll keep an eye on for the rest of the season. If he can refine that form, he's a dangerous player, but needs to see a bit more evidence.
Yeah, Ozzy's flagged up the 6-1 or 6-0. 6-0's 22-1. I mean, I've seen worse 22-1 shots. 6-1 is 8.5-1. I'd be more interested in the handicap market. It's minus 1.5. Dimitri's 8-11. That looks banker material to me. I mean, well, we've said it all about Dimitri, haven't we? But he was possibly the best player in the Grand Slam. Didn't even make the final. He was one of the best players in the World Championships. Didn't even make the semi-final. At the time of Dimitri's departure, which I think was the 4th round, he was certainly, without question, the best player up until that point for me. The best loser to that point, if you like. He's just looked, and as Pieman alludes to, without sounding too much like Wayne Mardle, there's so little that can go wrong with his actions, and he's got it perfected at the minute. It looks so comfortable and, like you say, in good form. And I don't like his demeanour particularly much on stage. Talking to himself, the bloody knee brace, etc. But yeah, he looks a dangerous player, and it's going to be a theme of our videos in 2021, I imagine, talking up Dimitri until he goes out in the first round of every tournament because we pick him. James Wade awaits in the 2nd round, the number 7 seed. Wade, strange. I mean, Jekyll and Hyde kind of player. It a 9-dart run went out in the same game of the World Championships. Very strange. I mean, I'd be in no rush to take him on away, to be honest, because he's one of them players that grinds it out, particularly against me, and the cliches that go with James Wade. But I think Dimitri would be the favourite in a match against Wade in round 2, to be honest, and then Dimitri against Michael van Gerwen in the quarterfinals would be lovely. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself there. But I think it's a nice, easy draw for the selection Vandenberg to get started in the tournament. Going on to the bottom quarter, if you like, or the 3rd match in the bottom half, is a rematch of the 3rd round of the World Championship. Krzysztof Ratajski against Simon Whitlock. On that day, I picked Whitlock to beat Krzysztof. Pieman picked Ratajski, and it finished.
I picked Whitlock. I'll hold my hands up.
He was the outside. Well, the prices for this game in the Masters are very similar to what they were in the World Championship. I was surprised to see Ratajski at odds on that occasion. Not as surprised now, obviously. Ratajski went on a good run in the Worlds. I think he did. Was it semi-final? Semi-final, lost out to Bunting. Quarterfinal, lost out to Bunting. So Krzysztof's 8-13 and Simon Whitlock's 11-8. Whitlock, another of those players, we've mentioned a few of them, that will be looking to bounce back after a disappointing World Championship. But this is a good game, and like I say, in this short format, best of 11 legs, pretty much anything could happen here. I wouldn't like to go either way. But what was your thoughts, Pieman, on this one?
Well, as you say, a round 3 rematch from the Worlds, and Wizard will be out for revenge against his Polish conqueror. But I thought Ratajski, he kind of added a string to his bow that we haven't seen before, in that he produced it when the pressure was on the TV. He's a floor merchant, Krzysztof Ratajski. Anyone who follows darts in the last couple of years will have seen him constantly appearing at TV events, constantly being talked up, and then kind of failing to deliver. But on the floor, he can beat anyone and everyone. He's won Players' Championship events. He's a really, really solid player. None of the big boys like playing Krzysztof because he just he scores constantly. He takes out his double. It's very rare that he has an off day, so you have to play well to knock him out, kind of thing. It was a strange game, him and Simon. I thought Simon was way below par, and the doubles just weren't going in. It's very rare that happens for Whitlock to that extent. He can have a dip on his doubles, but this was more than a dip. It was literally, he
just never got in on his doubles.
It was actually, it was 4-0. It was a thrashing, but on the scoring, he was as good, if not slightly better, than Ratajski, certainly towards the end of the match. But the doubles, he just couldn't get them to go, and it was painful to watch. But I think Whitlock, he had a really good year, a bit of a renaissance after the lockdown. 3 TV wins over MVG is what everyone talks about quite rightly. But I thought he looked as capable as anyone of like going into the finals of tournaments and winning tournaments prior to the Worlds. I really fancied him at the Worlds. I thought he had a great chance, and I haven't changed my mind on him here. I think he's a great selection at odds against Ratajski here. What I saw with Ratajski, which worried me a little bit, is even in his win against Gabriel Clemens, he kind of melted in the last leg. They both did. Big occasion for them both, but you'll remember they both missed sort of 6 or 7 match starts before Ratajski stumbled over the line. If he had lost that match, we would have been saying, God, he threw that away. Maybe the pressure would be question marks over him, this and that. I thought he showed the pressure against Stephen Bunting as well. He went into that game a favourite and didn't really turn up to what he can do. So he's definitely a player when the expectations are lower on him that I would like to get with. But when he's expected to win, I'm not as keen on him, to be honest. And I'd be with Whitlock here. I don't know if you agree with that, Ozzy, but...
Yeah, another difficult game, another pick 'em, and it just depends what you fancy. And I agree, if Whitlock could have picked up his finishing, it would have been extremely close. And, you just look at it on the face of it and you think, wow, he's been truly outclassed. And really, if it had just even improved his finishing ever so slightly, it could have been, a 4-2 type of thing, 4-2, 4-3. And you'd have been thinking, what a game. I would side with Whitlock. I think Ratajski put in a performance that, he's kind of Mr. Consistent, isn't he? You know what you're going to get from him. But I think the Whitlock performance was aided by a poor finishing from Whitlock. If Whitlock tightens up that finishing to even remotely half decent, I think he'll beat Ratajski. Because again, he's resurrected his form, and videos I watched previously, you were both, quite high on him, the form he showed. And again, one poor performance doesn't make you a bad player overnight. He's got form on his side. And from a betting perspective, again, I'll stay away. But just on an outright win, who do I think? It'll be Simon Whitlock.
But Tyske is one of the players that I always seem to get wrong from a betting perspective. Always try and take him on. So I'm going to tamper your guys' enthusiasm in Whitlock and say that, look, Ratajski, he likes this format. Is put in the best performance of his career, making to a world championship quarter final in what was a close loss to Bunting in the end. And he's 8-13. So I wouldn't put you off either player. I would prefer Whitlock to win. I do like Whitlock as a player, but I wouldn't bet confidently because Ratajski just is one of those players grinds it out and does get it done, particularly in these kind of formats. The winner of that game will take on Peter Wright, who's been much covered on this channel. He's the number 3 seed in this event. I think, did he get whitewashed last year in the game, Peter Wright, or was he?
Well, Peter Wright, in this event, he won it.
He won. Sorry, he won. Sorry,
he won it. Chizzy got whitewashed. He whitewashed Chizzy.
That was
when Chizzy was trying his glasses out. That was quite funny. Yeah. I mean, that was soon ditched. But I think Snake won it, but he was a fortunate winner, to be honest. I mean, he stumbled through a couple of games, and then even in the final, should have lost to Michael Smith in the final as well. So I mean, I'll let you talk away on Wright, but he was a bit of a fortunate winner, I thought.
Yeah, so another disappointment at the World Championships, going in as reigning champion, messing around with his setup mid-game in his first game. I forget who that was against, and then he's come up against Gabe Clemens and got brushed aside. Really, he didn't really look like beating Gabe Clemens. So another one who's on a bit of a redemption mission in terms of the recent World Championships. Ratajski or Whitlock would all fancy the chances against Peter Wright. I've not really got a whole lot to say more on Wright. I just wouldn't back him. I don't think he can be relied on with his set of equipment changing, etc. But if he gets the equipment set up right, he's a nightmare for betting angles because you can never back him. But when he gets it right, he's brilliant. He had the most 180s on the whole tour last year. He won the World Championships just over a year ago. So when he's right, he's brilliant, and when he's bad, he's terrible.
He's his own worst enemy, though, because when he's happy, it's like, right, I've got everything sorted, but I need to change something. And it's like it's just something in him that he always has to be changing things. I mean, changing darts, it's like a bit of a a persona. You know, there's always a talking point. You know, he's got that, you know, his wacky hair and stuff like that. And now he's known for his hair changing the darts. Just be good at what you do. He's clearly class, but if you get the darts, stick with him. Why? I mean, you say he threw the most 180s. I'd love to know with which darts. Is it just a case of he was in a rhythm? Why not just stick with them? Why just stick with him? He again is his own worst enemy, and then he walks off, face like thunder. But he's only got himself to blame.
Yeah, well, my worry about Peter Wright would, as you say, you just don't know which Peter Wright's gonna turn up, and I think there was that if you look at him overall as a runner, Peter Wright, I think there was a time when he was a bigger price and you could make that case for him saying, like, if he turns up, he's going to be brilliant. There was that pop that you wanted to be on him for when he was the big price and he stormed home. And that was the Worlds. And anyone who backed him for that Worlds would have been like, oh, what an insane price that was. But now, when he's getting put in as, you know, a former world champion, getting put in as like second fav, third fav, you can leave it, can't you? You know, yes, he'll win one or two tournaments throughout the year, but no harm at his price, you know.
That's absolutely bang on, Pieman. That really is. That's a good call there. The final game of the first round or of the bottom half of the draw is Daryl Gurney against Jeffrey Deswan. Jeffrey's the 22 seed. Got beat by our man Ryan Searle in his second round game at the World Championships. Disappointing again. I mean, that's one thing that I did get right in terms of Jeffrey. Erratic, chasing the doubles around the board, got brushed aside, to be honest with you, and he's one of the weaker players in this tournament, if you ask me. Daryl Gurney's 4-7, and Jeffrey Deswan's 11-8. Now, this isn't going to happen often, but 4-7 for someone to win a game is not normally my kind of party at all. But it's not short enough. Jeffrey Deswan, I can't see him beating Daryl Gurney. I really can't. So that would be my thoughts on it. And what was your initial thoughts on this one, Ozzy?
Completely agree. Deswan is unbackable. You just can't back him. He's unbackable in this tie. Erratic, again, you know, can produce a couple of unbelievable legs, but then can produce some absolutely disastrous ones. And I think Daryl Gurney, probably from his mental perspective as well, a much return to form in the Worlds on the big stage. You know, it's not, you know, he's just done it on the floor. He's done it at the biggest tournament in the darting calendar. And he threw really well. And that's a tournament from where he can take a lot of confidence. And again, I took a lot from what he was saying pre-tournament in a couple of interviews, that he knows now that if he doesn't perform, he will drop off and, you know, he'll drop out the top 16. And then, you know, it's just a downward slope from there. And I think it's a bit of realisation that he's up things on the practicing. He's relaxing a bit, doing things a bit differently. And look, it was evident. He's an excellent player, won majors, and I'm fairly confident. Well, not fairly confident, extremely confident. I agree. 4-7 is not short enough, and doubling that up with something like a Vandenberg minus 1.5 is just a nice. Again, egg on the face, but a banker double. That's just something that you can't see losing.
Egg on the face. That's like could be the name of this channel, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what we like.
Yeah. Right, Jeffrey Deswan. Let me just give a little caveat before I add my thoughts on this game. I think Jeffrey Deswan, in terms of natural talent, is up there with the best. As in, this guy throws darts so casually, so nonchalant, they just flow out of his hand. When he throws a 180, it's poetry in motion to watch. I love watching Jeffrey. I do think he's got bags of ability, but as you'll know, Adam, I put Jeffrey up as a real live runner in the Worlds, and it was the year he lost to Rob Cross with one of the highest losing averages ever in his first game. So, you know, hard lines there. But
I was on.
Yeah. The theory behind it is that this is a guy who broke through as a youth player and then fell off a cliff, fell off the face of the earth. We didn't see him for a year or two. And then he bounced back in at I think it was the UK Open or another early tournament in the year, and he beat Van Gerwen. Do you remember this, Adam, in January or February of that year? Yep. And I said to you, Jeffrey Deswan's back, and if this guy's back at his best, he's a real force. And what went on to happen is he went on to have a great year where he had he was qualifying for TV events, he was having runs, big performances, beating big players, whatever. But unfortunately, what we're now seeing is he's now falling off that cliff again. And I'd love to be wrong about this, but the form book tells us that when Jeffrey starts sliding, he slides quite badly. 9 180s in his World Championship loss, but he couldn't hit a double to save his life. And that is just not going to get you anywhere against Daryl Gurney, who seems absolutely rejuvenated, back near to his best on what we've seen at the Worlds. It was brilliant against Willie O'Connor in a game that it was, 3-2 in a scoreline, but that didn't do it justice. I thought he was superb. He was really unlucky against Gerwyn Price, losing the last leg. He actually had 108 to knock Gerwyn Price out in the deciding leg. Now, 108 finish, as you know, you only need one treble 19 to get yourself a dart, but he hit 2 single 19. So could have been a very different story for a lot of players if that had gone in. Daryl Gurney is a definite runner in this tournament, I think. If you look at someone at a bigger price, he looks bang in form. As Ozzy said, he's won majors, top quality player, confidence high. He'll be feeling really good about 2021 now. He'll be thinking, this is the year I can get myself back into the top end of darts. He's got a nice early chance, a nice starter game for him. I think he's an interesting runner, and Gurney to win this one for me. Yeah.
Yep, and the seed in the next round awaiting his number, the 6th seed, Dave Chisnall. We said plenty about him. Possible, although I didn't agree at the time, possible career best performance in the 4th round against Dimitri Vandenberg, and then definitely career best performance the next night beating Van Gerwen 5-0. I still think it's going to go down as one of the most stunning, shocking performances of World Darts history. I really do. Beating Van Gerwen 5-0 was sensational. It's the best we've seen Chisnall. He did get beat in the semi-final where I don't want to be too negative, but I said at the time it was back to his normal Chisnall, unfortunately. But that's a still very good standard, but it didn't match the standard he produced in his previous 2 games against Van Gerwen and Vandenberg. Chizzy will fancy himself against Gurney should he get there, but I think that could be a good game. I think the bookies might not have that close enough, but we'll find out when we get there. In terms of quarter betting, so the 6 players in quarter 3 are Van Gerwen 8-11. So this is to make the semi-final. Van Gerwen 8-11, Vandenberg 9-2, Wade 6, De Souza 9, Dobey 25, Clayton 28. So that obviously Van Gerwen's odds on there, but we're on the Dimitri train. The quarter 4 betting, so the 6 runners in there to make the semi-final. Peter Wright 5-4, wouldn't touch him with a barge pole. Chisnall 5-2, Gurney at 8. I know that might attract Pieman. 8-1 Gurney to make the semi-final. Ratajski 8. Whitlock 12, Deswan 20. Whitlock at 12 might be a bit of value there for me, but he'd have to get past Ratajski first time up. And then so that's all 24 players covered. So we'll go back to the outright market if you like. So to win the whole tournament, Van Gerwen in his usual spot as favourite at 11-4. Gerwyn Price, the newly crowned world champion, at 7-2, is hot on his heels. Peter Wright at 7-1. So that market there looks pretty similar to what the World Championship market did, and all 3 of those players had pretty different experiences there. So it's a surprise, it's maybe not a surprise that the 3 leading players are still at the top of the market, obviously, but I think that position for Peter Wright could be gone in the next 2 or 3 months, to be honest, in terms of the outright markets. Vandenberg 16-1. We all fancy him. I think he was a touch higher at 18-1 a couple of weeks ago when we first put it up. We all fancy him at 16-1. Vandenberg. Gary Anderson, same price, 16. Aspinall's 18. Smith 25. I know Pieman likes that. Chisnall 25. James Wade 33. Durant 40. De Souza 40, then we're into the really big prices thereafter. Gurney's 50-1 outright. I know there's been a shout for him. Ozzy likes Joe Cullen, he's 50-1. But I still think the player that is the most wrong price is Stephen Bunting. He's now 110. He was 125 the other week when I put him up. But I think he'll beat Cullen in the first round, and then it's Price. Obviously a tough task, but from there, I think it could open up for Bunting. I just think it's the wrong price. I'm sorry about that. I really do. But Ozzy's already put up his banker double. I'll put that in the description. I've got a couple of fancies that I'll put in the description, and we're sure to get some Pieman picks as well. So before we wrap up, who is your pick to be winning this tournament? Matt Pieman Hill.
Yeah, Dimitri Vandenberg at 16. But I will just say this tournament, I said it at the start of the first video, you're dealing with quality players. They've only got to win 4 games to win the title. first to 6, 10, 11. It's not a long format. If you fancy someone and they're in form and they're a massive price, do not be put off. And that's why I will put up as my outside fancies, King, Gurney, Bunting, all massive prices, could give you a run, could well win it.
Ozzy, who for you?
Well, I can't go against Vandenberg after saying it in the first video. I'm not saying everything's set up for him, but it's as good as a good run, throwing well. But I agree with Pieman on his bigger prices as well. Mervyn King again, throwing well, and this sort of tournament is all about form. And you just look at the form players and the ones that have been named, the likes of Gurney. Gurney, another one who'll be vying for that Premier League spot as well, because I don't think he was named in that Premier League. And
it's a very good point. Yeah, I think if he wins this, he'd get in, wouldn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And even if he gets to say a final, but is beaten by one of the top seeds who's already in the Premier League, there's every chance there. So you've got that on the line for him as well. Not going to tip up Bunting. I agree on the price is wrong. He should be shorter, but I think Cullen beats him. I don't think Cullen wins the tournament because I think Gerwin Price would have a bit too much for him. But I think King definitely, and Gurney as well. Two outside bets who will give you a run for your money.
Well, there's plenty covered there. Like I say, I'll be back in Vandenberg. I've already backed Vandenberg actually, and I will be back. I will be having a fiver on Stephen Bunting as well. I just think he's too big a price. But we've flagged up some areas of the draw that are going to open up, particularly the little bits with Rob Crossing, potentially the Peter Wright section as well. So, and like I say, it's 3 days back-to-back action, really. The top 24 players in the world. It'll be around about a month since darts was last on your TV. I mean, what more do you want? So that's our full in-depth preview of the bottom half of the draw and the 12 players there. We've covered the 12 players in the top half of the draw in another video. We'll put that in the description. So let us know who you fancy, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back soon.
Cheers.